Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
Hello, it's another edition of Believe in the Bronx, the Las Vegas edition. Pete Caldera here in Vegas. Mike Stanton, of course, back in Houston. And it's already an interesting offseason with the Yankees when you think about how much is on Brian Cashman's plate as these GM meetings begin here,
Right.
Mike. And of course, everything's predicated on Aaron Judge. And, Cash kind of gave the idea again that, this is going to get slow played a bit here. And he said that Judge is dictating the dance steps, but right now we're in a very slow tango.
Yeah, and that's kind of what you're going to expect. I mean, yeah, if this was going to be a quick process, it would have happened, last offseason.
Right.
It would have happened in spring training. So, now that you, as a player that's been through free agency a couple different times, now never to the level that Aaron Judge is, but it takes time to build the market. And I still feel like the Yankees are the right fit for both the Yankees and for Judge. But there's always a song and dance, and there's always the chance that he does leave. So, this is one of those things that it's going to take a little bit of time. When you're talking about the amount of money, you're talking about the years. You got to let the other teams get involved. And this is kind of the Yankee way. You go back to George Steinbrenner. He always let his free agents get to free agency, and he cost himself money. It seemed like every single solitary time, whether it was Andy Pettitte or even Derek Jeter, Bernie Williams, he had a chance of losing all those players, and actually did lose Andy Pettitte one time, but they did bring him back. So this is just kind of, now that was George. Hal's different, but it's still the Yankees. That's still kind of how they're going to do business.
Yeah, and that's a good perspective to have, because I mean, if they did this with Derek Jeter, it can happen with any team, but with anyone. But clearly, Cash has made reference to this. Judge made that wager on his own talent and his own performance,
right?
And now he's reaping the benefits of that, holding a winning Powerball ticket. Now, when people ask you to handicap this race, it's you got to still think the Yankees hold the high cards in this because of the relationship and where they are and where they know they can spend, and the fact that they can outspend anyone if they have to. I'm just wondering if they didn't squander this, this opportunity to really make an aggressive first strike at Judge, present one of their best offers right away and knock it out of the park and say, go beat this number, because this was their exclusive window to talk to him, and that's leaving them.
Well, but the problem with that is, if you put your best foot forward first, what happens if somebody does trump it? What if somebody does come in and comes above it, and you're like, well, we've already, that really was our best offer. Now, the Yankees can always up it, but there is a number. There is and who knows what that number is. And Brian Cashman might not even know, but there is a never exceed number. And so, you just don't know what that is. And going into this, knowing who his representation is, knowing that this is his first time in free agency, and a lot of players want to go through the song and dance, even if Aaron Judge feels like he's absolutely going to be back with the Yankees, this might be his only chance to actually go through the whole process. And as nerve-wracking as it is, you do still look at it, and you still do want to experience if you're a player.
Yeah, and on management side, I mean, they've got other balls in the air right now.
Oh man,
I mean,
lots.
The Judge thing is just, I mean, they won't let it hold them up to do other things, but you've got a huge expenditure out there that it's Judge is going to take up so much of your payroll right now, and that's obviously a big spot to fill in right field, a big spot in your lineup to fill. But you've got other areas you need to address. Now, I don't necessarily think that the Yankees would be heavily involved in the free agents shortstop market, but their infield is completely in flux right now. You would anticipate they would come to some agreement with Anthony Rizzo on a 2-year deal, perhaps with maybe an option. And because both sides want to come back, so I think inherently you go in thinking we can get this done. Third base, you've got almost an immovable contract in the $25 million Josh Donaldson's owed next year. As we stand here right now, you don't know who your starting shortstop is, and probably not going to be Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. But are you giving the keys to Oswald Peraza, or is there going to be a true competition there? When does Anthony Volpe do? And second base, I got to think Gleyber Torres, since they nearly traded him at the trade deadline, or were heavily involved in discussions with him, is going to be involved in more trade discussions to try to shore up other areas, because you've got to find a position for DJ LeMahieu next year.
Right. And you expect DJ LeMahieu, a former batting champion in the National League, a guy that really puts together high quality at bats. And that's exactly what this lineup, they need more contact. I mean, I think that's what they were missing in October. They were missing Andrew Benintendi. They were missing DJ LeMahieu, because those are dudes that are kind of the exact opposite of the whole rest of the lineup. You need some dudes on, you need some guys that can make a little bit more contacts, not going to strike out nearly as much. So I think second base is really the place to put DJ. And who knows? I mean, let's, God forbid, let's say that Judge does leave the Yankees. That might put them right into the thicket of the shortstops market, just simply because there are a couple very good shortstops out there. And, the ones that are at the top, Trey Turner and you have Carlos Correa. Those are both guys that are on the free agent market that would look pretty good in pinstripes.
Right. I mean, ideally, if you could move Donaldson, move that contract, and LeMahieu,
that would help greatly. But they're not. There's no way. And it was just put out there today or yesterday that Donaldson is going to be the third baseman, which makes complete sense because he's under contract. And where 25, 30 years ago, George Steinbrenner might have said, if he was just sick, we'll eat the money and we'll just go on. But that is not how Hal is going to do this. He is under contract. If they can move the contract, okay, fine. But if not, Josh Donaldson's going to be the opening day third baseman.
Right. And Cashman already said, plainly, Donaldson, your third baseman because he's under contract.
Right.
Torres is your second baseman because you've got him under control.
Right.
But what's left unsaid, or at least hinted at, is the fact that they're always looking to improve their roster. They'll move heaven and earth to try to move Donaldson's contract if they can,
right?
Possibly in a swap for another, somebody else's bad contract. But
those always work out. The bad contract for the bad contract, those just always work out.
Exactly. But if you move Gleyber for pitching, or as you mentioned, possibly for outfield help, they want to re-sign Benintendi. It's going to be interesting to see what his market is now in free agency, because that hamate will that won't be an issue
right
next year. Although they didn't think it would be an issue this year, because they thought he had it taken care of for the first time when he was with Boston. So, but yeah, and that would go some way into helping them have a better contact oriented lineup. You got to think too, Mike, that with the shift going away next year, that could raise Rizzo's batting average, 20, 30.
Oh my goodness. Too. The whole league. The whole league's batting average is going to go up, but Rizzo may be among the top. He just the second baseman playing short right field. He just wears that guy out. Now, it's going to be interesting to see how they still, because you can still move just the second baseman. But I'll tell you what, it's going to be fascinating to see how teams react. And I think that there's a lot of teams out there, all the teams, they're going to push the envelope. They're going to, they're going to try and, I don't want to say circumvent the rules, but at least try and get right up against what is legal and what isn't, as far as shifting players around. But no, it's going to absolutely help Anthony Rizzo. I tell you what, once the regular season was over, and he's he might not have gotten over getting knocked out of the playoffs, but he's got to have a smile on his face knowing that the shift is going away.
Yeah. I'm thinking about Cashman was asked about some of the other needs, and at least, if they bring Judge back, you bring Benintendi back in an ideal world. Now your outfield is set because you got Bader out there. Your infield, as we said, is in flux. They go into this offseason with knowing who their first four starters are.
Yeah.
So and they have the depth, with Herman and guys like Clark Schmidt, that they could fill in a fifth. They don't need to bring Jamison Tyone back. I think they would, in a perfect world, you could bring him back, but you don't know what his market is right now, and that's
Right.
not necessarily a concrete need at this point. But they're always looking to improve on pitching, and you do wonder. There are some interesting names out there in free agency. I think they could use a lefty. Carlos Rodon is a guy that would be perfect, I think, to slot into their rotation, but not an area of acute need right now. I'm just wondering how you look at it.
I think that's something that will be. He's got, he being Brian Cashman. There's bigger fish to fry right now. I mean, now, yes, you're going to negotiate with as many players as you can. I mean, that's really, you got to remember, a general manager's job is the off season is their regular season. That's when they are at their best. That in the trade deadline, that's when they're really doing their heavy work. And you're in Vegas right now for the GM meetings. And a lot of times the GM meetings, we don't usually get a whole lot of action out of there. It's more setting the groundwork for what's to come, for the winter meetings and then going, headlong into free agency. But, so I think that, yeah, getting a left-handed starter, that would be awesome. But I do think that Rodon is going to be someone that is absolutely coveted, and who knows what the budget is going to look like, because it's all going to be contingency of what happens with Judge. How much are you going to have to pay Aaron Judge to stay in the pinstripes, and can you pull that off? So it's going to be a fascinating offseason. I think there's going to be some movement. I also think I've been trying to figure out how to call this offseason, this free agent, this hot stove season. What's kind of coming to me, this may be the offseason of the reunion. I think there's going to be a lot of players across the league that stay with the teams that they were on in 2022. I think that's kind of how, and that's the one thing when you were saying this about the Yankees and you saw the offensive woes they had, you bring Benintendi back, you figure out how to get DJ LeMahieu to stay on the field and get him in the lineup. And those make a big change. But with those moves, do the Yankees actually get better? And there lies the one caveat about all the ideas of having those reunions is that, you're paying the player even more to make the team the same. Now, we talked about this before, you take Judge off the team. That is a huge step backwards. That is a massive loss in production. And I really don't think they can handle that. They don't have the rest of the lineup to be able to cover, even 85% of what Judge did and what he means to that organization. But yeah, I think this is going to be the off season of the reunion.
That's interesting. Speaking of reunion, they will bring back in that rotation Cole, Nestor, Severino, who they just picked up his option. That was a no-brainer. And
right.
Frankie Montas, who they never saw, anything close to what they expected out of him because the
can't stay on the mound.
Right. And that, I mean, they're expecting he's going to have a normal offseason and expecting him to be a big part of their rotation next year. But, the fragile nature of pitching, would suggest that, they'd be in that market to some level. This is also a team that, he has taken Jamison Tyone and Jordan Montgomery off their rotation from,
I think there's an argument to bring Jamison back. Because, most teams, they're not going to say it outright, but most of these teams, at least for a good portion of the season, are going to be 6-man rotations. Yeah. So if you have a 6-man rotation, how many starters do you really need? You really need 9, 10, because somebody's going to get hurt. There's always going to be guys on and off the IL. So, you need as many guys. And I'll tell you, Jamison did a nice job in pinstripes. He shows that he can pitch in New York, which is always something that you really don't know until someone gets there, if they can handle the pressure of the Bronx. And I think Jamison did a nice job for him. And I don't think he's going to be crazy expensive. He's not anywhere close to the top of the free agent pitching market. So I think that there's a chance that they may be able to, add an extra year at a lower AAV, and maybe they can bring him back. But I think, having 4 starters is awesome, but that's not enough.
Right. Yeah. Something to be said for a guy who, takes the ball every 5th day. And,
Right.
Since rehabbing back from that second Tommy John surgery,
Mm-hmm.
he's been a pretty reliable innings guy. So yeah, that's, there's obviously value in that. Also, Cash mentioned that, they're anticipating Clay Holmes is, going into next year as their closer. You saw better in the second half out of guys like Jonathan Weisiger that, helped to bolster their setup relief. But, you're wondering also, do they have enough arms there? And to what extent could they possibly be in the relief market too?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, because across Major League Baseball, we've seen the value of relievers just go through the roof, because starters just simply don't throw nearly as many innings as they need to. They don't throw nearly as many innings as they should. And now we're even talking about going to a 6-man rotation. So what does that do? That still puts the pressure on the bullpen. And, if the Yankees can get healthy in the bullpen, they, on paper, healthy, they should have a very, very good bullpen. But man, is that a big but? Because they just simply haven't been able to keep their guys on the field, and whether it's been in the lineup or whether it's been in the bullpen.
Yeah. One other thing I'm sort of curious about, and I don't know, I mean, this could be a real long shot, but would they ever entertain dealing Giancarlo Stanton? Listen, he's got a ton of money left on that deal. He has a full no trade clause in his contract.
Yep.
Probably, just spitballing here, that the only teams that he would consider going to were probably the Dodgers or maybe the Padres, and I don't know if they've got room for
going back to California,
anything else. But and this is but this is a guy who did want New York at the time that that Miami dealt him, and the Yankees were one of 4 teams on his list. But if you sold relatively high on Stanton now and got him to agree, that's money you could free up to go in other directions, and certainly Judge is one of those directions.
Yeah, so the AAV on the contract is about $25 million. So he's making a lot of money, but he's not making nearly as much as he was when when he signed the contract. Yeah. And by the way, that was an awesome contract for the Marlins, because he didn't start making real money until he had that first opt-out, and then they traded him to New York. So the AAV was there, but the actual dollars going out were very low at the beginning. If you take Cashman at his word, what did he say? He goes, I'm open for kind of anything, whether it's free agency, trade market, whatever it may be. So, yeah, I think they could kick the tires there. I mean, he's been very productive, but he's also been very hurt. Another guy that just hasn't been able. I mean, the guy would put up awesome numbers if he got 600 plate appearances, but I mean, at this point in his career, can you really? And they basically have made him a full-time DH. Yeah, he played in the field a little bit, but even being a full-time DH still hasn't been able to stay in the lineup. So I think that's one of those positions that, you would miss the production, but could you use the money? Could you use the DH spot to do something a little bit more creative? So I think he would at least kick the tires. Whether he would do it or not, that's another story.
Right. Yeah, it'll be really fascinating to see where the these big payroll teams, other than the Yankees, how they react to this winter. How the Giants have a ton of money freed up, and obviously they're the universal second choice or 1A behind the Yankees for Judge. Where the Red Sox go after their down year and having some money to spend. They've got Bogarts to deal with. They'd like to extend Devers, obviously, and what the Dodgers are going to do too with all the resources they have. The disappointment after a tremendous regular season, to fall that flat in October. Where do they go? That's going to be fascinating for me to watch.
It is going to be fascinating. Now, the good thing is, We had a full season in 2022. We had a great postseason. I think it's a good thing that the Phillies actually made it to the World Series. It shows that just get into the dance and you got a chance. And they gave the Astros all that the Astros wanted and more. And I think that may very well push a few other teams to kind of be a little more aggressive, saying if we can just get to the postseason, we can make a run. So it is going to be a fascinating offseason. And you also have to remember, now we're multiple years past 2020. The incredible disaster that 2020 was, with no fans and the shortened season and the pandemic and all that, and all the money that was lost. It does seem like these teams have gotten back on their feet, and now they're ready to really address the product on the field, not just what the bottom line in the accounting department says.
Right. Well, regardless of all the flux on the Yankees right now and all the things that we don't know yet, downstairs in the sports book, you can still get the Yankees at 9-1 to win the World Series. I don't know if that's a good bet.
How
or
can
a
you
bad
put
bet.
odds? How can you put odds on something you have no
They
idea?
put odds on everything, Mike. There's odds on Judge signing somewhere. There's
sure. But you're going to give odds and you have no idea what the roster is going to look like.
Well, in Las Vegas, they can, as we said, can wager on anything.
There you go.
You can bet we'll be back talking about the Yankees when there's things to talk about, and there will be all off season long. So thanks for watching this edition of Believe in the Bronx, and we will see you shortly down the road.
See ya.
Thank you for watching Believe. You can find more great content at Believe.com. That's BLEAV.com. Do you believe?